stage left. The audience rises and holds their breath. They let the vampires into their house, pretend they don't see when the teeth come out. Put a band-aid on their throat. No one wants to rock the boat, and no one wants to talk about it. You're not supposed to talk about it. Rises and the players come out. Webs of lies spinning from their mouths. Start looking, listen for a little while. And you don't see them very high smile. Pay no attention to the men behind the curtain. Just look away when you see the blood spurting down to a steady drip. I promise to leave you a little bit. Drink tomorrow. I love the taste of your terror and your sorrow bathing in your blood. It's never enough. Program reality, double thing duality. A boot upon the face of all mankind. Our numbers up and the dead woman sign. Go along to get along in the time by the siren song. The graves are empty and the crypts are cracking open. The hordes upon you and you stand there frozen, waiting for the word. Stand in line and wait your turn. Don't follow the strings to find out who is pulling. Just drink your poison, keep on laughing and drooling, eating your own flesh. The master always knows what's best. Worldwide genocide. The overlords of hungry parasites. They point the finger and the eagles fly. Raining fire, children die. Starving plague, paralyzed. A pile of bodies rotting, covered in fire. But no one wants to talk about it. It's safer not to talk about it. Pick up my strings, no more bowing to the master. I tried to run, but they only came faster. Now I stand my ground. I ain't backing down. Silver bullets in my pistol, in my holster. My will is strengthened and my confidence is bolstered. Don't test my resolve. Don't test my resolve.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Iron Mountain Hour. It is Sunday, December the 10th, 2023. My name is Cliff. I'm joined by Dustin at the end of the table and our special guest, Aaron Armageddon, here again tonight.
Center lot.
That's right. And Aaron is the host of the Armageddon Hour podcast, and he's also doing some Thursday night crossover stuff with us here at the Iron Mountain Hour, and he's in town and in studio tonight. So we're going to talk about some UFOs. Got lots of cool stuff to talk about tonight. It's going to be kind of a quick show. I do have an early morning, so I'm not going to be up here all night. We're going to kind of keep it towards the Iron Mountain Hour, but thank you so much for joining us here live from Carter County, Tennessee, in the middle of the Iron Mountain Range that heads up from North Carolina across the corner of Tennessee over into Virginia. Stopping up there around Damascus, and lots of pretty sights up that way. And we're going to end our episode tonight. We're going to talk about a flight that crashed on Holston Mountain, which intersects with the Iron Mountains up there on the way to Shady Valley. So we'll get into that a little bit later. But yeah, this episode we've got a few things to talk about. We've got We mentioned the UFO video that you and I looked at last week, Dustin. The purported video of flight MH470, the Malaysia 370, the Malaysian Airlines flight that disappeared. There was a video that went around for several years. I thought it was a newer video, but it actually went around about 10 years ago or 8 years ago, and was purportedly these orbs that were getting rid of the craft. But the video has actually been debunked, so that one is not real. But I do have the... they look kind of like Foo Fighters. I guess they were discs, but there was evidence produced that the backgrounds were from a website made for video editors and graphic designers. So this guy right here, Jonas DeRoe, he actually took the 2012 stock images that were the background for the sky, and he shows where there were his images that he has the copyright for, and he has the raw files for the sky. So everything else that was put on top of it was fake. That's why initially there were some videos claiming to debunk it, and they were saying, oh, well, this is showing contrail in the infrared and you wouldn't be able to see that, which, I mean, that's, I don't know, but that sounded, these guys on this what was it, Corridor Crew, I believe it is, that does like video effects and stuff. They do they kind of look at CG effects, and they're all professional video editors, and they looked at it and said several weak points that looked like it was not a real video, but none of them had that, but they showed basically that the background was static, and so they were pretty convinced it was, and they had pretty much convinced it was fake too, but that was not what Kim.com was looking for. He was looking for the actual raw files that somebody used to make the video, and this guy produced them, and Kim offered the reward that I think he offered him $100,000 reward, but the guy says he doesn't want the reward. So now this is leading to another conspiracy theory. These people saying, oh, well, that shows you he's a shill. He didn't want the reward. He's obviously a paid informant or whatever it is. So jump in that chat, let us know what you think about these stories, and if you think that's a real video, we sure would love to hear about it. I thought it was pretty convincing until I watched some debunking videos on it, and then I saw several things that were weak enough. And I'm not a guy to fall for I know there's fake debunkings out there all the time, but this. It's pretty hard to argue with the stuff on this video. So
there's a lot of activity though in the sky.
There is, and there's a lot of other things that aren't so easy to debunk. But I wanted to start off with that one because we had it on the show last week. Dustin and I discussed it, and as far as we could tell, at the time, it seemed to be authentic, and all the indications were that nobody had proved that it wasn't. So that is out there now, and it is officially debunked. In my opinion, anyway. I mean, I guess
I would
there's people that will argue it to the end of the world, but this is a pretty good UFO. This looks like you guys ever see that Pokemon Squirtle? This looks like Squirtle flying by this guy or something. Look at it. Hold it right here. What the hell is that?
I don't know. Looks like it's triangular. Oh no, it looks like a.
Kind of reminds me of those War of the Worlds craft from the PBS version of War of the World.
Yeah, it could possibly be CGI'd in there.
I don't know. It looks like a real physical object to me, but
honestly, it looks like some kind of sea creature.
Yeah, that's what I look like too. Look how high up he is.
Mantis. That's all I was trying to.
Yeah, manta. Yeah, manta ray.
Manta ray.
Yeah, manta ray. I was going to say mantis. Like a praying mantis.
It's a horseshoe crab up there flying around.
Horseshoe crab, God's perfect creation. Haven't evolved in however many billion of years.
Yeah, let's watch it again. Here it comes. We'll do it without pausing it and see what you think. You can see it coming for a good way, and then zoop right by.
Oh dang! I did see that.
That's right. It looks like a flying turtle. What it looked like to me.
It's Joe Dirt in a hot air balloon.
It's Joe Dirt. Thank you
Mario Kart.
Oh yes.
Someone got a green shell on you.
There's a shell. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Look there. It's got a weird color to it. Two different colors there. It looks like. I don't know what the hell that is, but it was neat. That was just what I came across, and I figured I'd share since we're talking UFOs. The dog, if you don't stop stepping on the lights, you're going to be kicked out of here. Sit down there and be quiet. Be a good boy. All right, let's.
There's no dog.
Just an insane person, but they already know that, Dustin. You're not blowing my cover. So. We've talked mostly on this show when we've talked about the Project Blue, and when I started to even like search for this, it starts giving me Project Blue Beam, because we've mentioned that several times. And again, I'm unconvinced of Project Blue Beam. I've read a lot about it, but the source seems to be one guy. I can't remember the guy's name. He was like a Canadian author and journalist, and
Who had a motive to maybe make some money off a book.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I can't confirm. I've not ever seen anybody confirm anything that he said. Everybody cites him as the source. It's like.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm totally open to the idea that they have a program like that, or that program out there, but I just have never seen, like, what we're going to look at.
Tangible evidence besides.
Like,
Well, if it is a real program, then yeah, they're gonna cover it up. If it's something they're still, which it is, because like I said, I think that they're saving it up for to blame the rapture on aliens. They're gonna say, "Oh, it's aliens that did it."
well, that's what we always hear about Project Blue Book and Project Blue Beam, and that's
Yeah,
in
we're talking about it. It's like Monarch.
the Sergey or whatever the hell his name is. I can't remember his name. Let's look his name up real quick. So we just quit calling him that guy. But like, for example, Project Blue Beam or Project Blue Book, which we're going to see, we've got tons of records on this and stuff. Serge Manas, that's his name, Canadian investigative journalist, poet, essayist, and conspiracy theorist. A conspiracy theorist. Well, they put that name on him. He must be some kind of crazy guy, right? He can't be they called him a conspiracy theorist. But Project Blue Beam was purportedly the idea where they were going to use NASA space age technology to basically do some sort of hologram or some sort of thing where you light up the sky, or try to convince people that
they had Tupac on stage like a hologram.
Yeah, and we've seen lots of people.
Well, if, how that's gotten better over time, it's like that, and that's what you got in the conventional private market. Whenever you have the government stuff, where they always have.
And the green lasers
Things.
going over, like Hawaii, the lasers they scan the Earth with,
That's interesting that you should mention that,
So,
Dustin. So
it seems like it's.
the technology is definitely doable. Yeah, there's no doubt they could do it.
Because hell, we have the Star Wars hologram. We got better holograms than in Star Wars. So
Yeah. Well, and like Aaron said, I mean, if they really are going to do it, you're probably not going to find many leaks of it. But at the same time, most of the
it's
time,
not been 50
They
years.
probably
that
already
they
changed
can't.
the name of it. Yeah, it's probably totally called something totally different now.
yeah.
And it's not been long enough for them to put it in the declassified stuff yet.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. Yeah.
But usually, like, you'll see, like, okay, well, if Serge Monast wrote this book about Project Bluebeam, he would, I mean, you'd think he would kind of name where this comes from. But I don't remember ever seeing that. So I mean, maybe he did, and I'm just ignorant about it. But anyway, that's not the point of it. The point is, there was one thing that we do have tangible evidence for, and that is Project Blue Book, and we can actually look through the government archives on it and everything, and look at a lot of the records, and a lot of them are still classified. I mean, we're talking 60 years later. They're still. We were watching the JFK. There's a new JFK documentary from what the doctor saw, and I mean,
good. I would highly recommend
it's good, and I learned a lot of stuff from it. But at the same time, it's like we already fucking knew that that thing's a lie. I mean, I'm glad they came out and told it. And the stories, the doctors came out 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's what it says. So they like sandbagged that video. They were sitting on it because we kept saying those guys are too young. Looking, I was like, this had to have been filmed a long time ago.
Yeah, because there was like, I was the chief resident at Parkland Hospital, and it was, this is 60 years ago. This guy would have to, I mean, to be the chief resident, he'd have to be at least like 30 or close
Most
to
of
it.
those guys were dead now.
Yeah,
actually.
but this guy in the video looked like he was about 60. I'm like, there's no way. But
They definitely shelved it, and it was well produced, and you could tell it was like a really good.
I think it was Paramount Plus is who did it, and then watched the JFK Revisited, the Oliver Stone.
Which is also excellent.
Yeah, which I learned a lot from that too, and I didn't finish watching it, but I need to watch the end of it. But I was falling asleep. But at any rate, like all that, all that's documented. And that's one of the things they're going back through is they're looking at all the medical reports, they're looking at all these documents, they're looking at everybody's witness statements, the doctor statements, and it was pretty wild how many witnesses there were like saw people said they saw puffs of smoke and fire coming from the grassy knoll and stuff. Speaking of witnesses, but you got all these different witness statements and stuff, and all these documents, and the government's a huge bureaucracy. Everything in it is like has to be recorded in triplicate and stamped and filed and put away. And sometimes those things go missing, but most of the time they keep very detailed records at
They
places.
wind up in Joe's garage near his Corvette.
Yeah. In places like the National Archive. So National Archive, and we're going to give you another example of what you said just a minute ago about a lot of times this stuff is, kind of vanishes, and then we're also later we're going to get into what you said, Dustin, about the private companies having more technology than. Or having the technology that we see on display to be able to do these things. Well, we're going to talk about some private companies who were involved in government retrieval of UFO crashes, and who perhaps were able to use the technology that they were found. And a lot of these private organizations were actually, CIA private fronts, just like, how we were talking about how the TVA is a federal. It's a private corporation, but it's owned by the federal. Yeah, it's owned by the federal government. So it doesn't have to follow the Constitution like a regular, federal government entity is. But it's able to give itself the power. I mean, they got like federal police or something that work for the TVA police. They can put they can charge you with federal crimes. So. I mean, they're definitely, even though they are private, they are doing. They
have armed guards actually almost every dam, because I do security
they should.
this year, and I would notice on Indeed and other places, and with other companies I was looking at, they actually have armed guards at the dams, like you said. Yeah, and they should. Like you said.
Our backbone of our whole economic infrastructure depends on these waterways, for one, flood control, but two, for electricity.
I was like, that's gonna be an easy, awesome job.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's definitely, they were, I remember then they were around, especially after 9/11, they were really watching the dams, and they were like, if they saw people taking pictures of them, they would come and question them and stuff like that. So I remember that was way back then even. But in the Project Blue Book, they've got the National Archives here. They've got all the reports of them, so you can go online and search them. If you just search Project Blue Book, you'll get a link to it from archives. You can find it from the FBI, CIA. They've all got this stuff on here, at least to the National Archives. But one of the things I felt was interesting about this, the Project Blue Book, for those of y'all who don't know, it was probably became most widely known after the X-Files talked about it. Twin Peaks talked about it in '91, and then X-Files talked about it a couple years after that. But before that, most people had probably never heard, except for your guys who were out handing out pamphlets at the town square. Most people who only really watched mainstream sources and stuff had never heard of it. So what it is a UFO crash retrieval program, and it was acknowledged by the federal government that the Air Force ran this thing from 1959 up until no, wait a minute, what was it? Was it let's see, they ran it for about 20 years to 30 years officially.
What it really is, this is a subsidiary for Kelly Blue Book. They go find the wrecked UFOs and give them a quote on them.
It was how the Kelly Blue Book was expanding their intergalactic operation.
Gotta be first on it, man.
That's right. If you ain't first, you're last. But they would retrieve these UFOs, and went from 47 to 69. So the Roswell craft, I guess, would have been part of that. That would have been collected under Blue Book, and they did take it to what was it, Nellis Air Force Base, or was it Wright-Patterson that they took it to?
I can't remember.
Supposedly they flew part of it, I think, to maybe it was. Part of it went to Wright-Patterson, and part of it went to Nellis. I can't remember exactly. But they hauled this thing off. The Air Force collected it, and the Roswell story. We've talked about it before. Y'all can look it up. There's all kinds of stuff. People have all kinds of details. If you go down to Roswell, the whole town is built up around it now too, about the whole UFO lore.
I actually went there a couple of years ago, and we drove up along the fence. And when you're out there, it's just like miles. It's just flat desert, and there's just miles of nothing. Like the road disappears, like the movies, you see like the rippling.
The vanishing point happens.
Yeah. And but if you even get out there, we saw patrol vehicles out near there. It's actually, and the actual size, like, I'm not going to say the exact amount, but it's like almost 100 miles from Roswell. So we went to Roswell. Now they have a UFO museum there. It was really cool. If people like us would go in there, but some new age kids would probably go there like, what is this? What I mean? But to me, it was awesome. It kind of had the vibes of like the Captain Spaulding murder ride, at the gas station where you had the chicken.
Yeah. Kind of like the old Ripley's place that the old Ripley's museums that they used to have, where they were.
Yeah, I liked it though, man. It was,
Yeah.
and even the gas stations and stuff were all alien themed once you get near out there.
I guess the Ripley's museums are trying to emulate that little small town museum thing.
They definitely patrol that whole area still, and altering vehicles and stuff. And we saw them running back and forth and all around, and it was pretty wild.
Well,
But you can't really get even too close to it, But if once you cross a threshold, they'll show up.
Yeah.
Remember
when nothing ever happened, did it with the plan? Remember the plan, and it was probably like 5-6 years ago.
Actually, that was the second or first podcast I did was on that.
Well,
they invade
Area 51.
Yeah, that was.
Or they were gonna Naruto run into Area 51 because they figured if they did the Naruto run with their arms out behind them, that they wouldn't be able to get hit by the bullets. But I don't think that ever happened. I don't think they ever tried it, did they? I think the government.
No, they did. It was more like I filmed it live. Like I did I had like a box up and I showed people there.
But did people actually run in?
It was like a tailgating. A couple people tried to get in there. No, there's no way they would.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, dude. Because the government put out a thing like, if you try to do this, we will shoot you.
Yeah.
Like, let everybody know.
They were just out drunk and just getting messed up. It was like kind of like a rave is what it turned into in the desert.
That's
like
what it looked like.
A tailgate party.
Yeah.
Everybody just dressed up like aliens and were kind of hanging out. And
Yeah, well, the whole thing was they were like, well, we can charge Area 51. There's no way they can stop all of us. Like, yeah, they probably can.
Oh yeah, they got a machine turrets. Somebody pop up at the ground, just shoot lasers. Just boop, beep, 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 beep. We just like liquefied immediately. Yeah, but who knows what they're actually doing out there? But I'll tell you this: like I said, there's definitely something out there. They wouldn't keep people on a payroll to monitor it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the Area 51 kind of is.
I think it's more so where they keep.
It's where they do I think it's where they do the test stuff that they do for like experimental aircraft. But there's the other sites around there, like the Groom Lake and S4.
Groom Lake Research. Yeah,
that's where they're doing the real shit. White Sands, all around that area, they're doing all kinds of real shit.
We drove out in the desert, all around all those different places, and saw a lot of like crazy weird stuff out there. It's definitely got weird vibes. It's like Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibes. The Panhandle of Texas. When you're going through there, it's just like, man, there's nothing. It's just. Especially if you don't know where you're at, it's easy to get turned around in there. And it's like up here, the southern parts of Texas, the phones don't work.
Yeah.
And New Mexico, in Arizona, all out that way. Mm-hmm. But it was really cool, actually. Roswell was. Like I said, the actual sites are like pretty good little distance, almost 100 miles about from here to Knoxville, from it. So about an hour drive out.
Right.
But it was worth going out there in the middle of the night and just kind of checking it out. There was definitely stuff up around it. We could see all kinds of like lights and stuff flying around, and
probably every satellite and every nation's satellites in the world probably monitor that place and fly directly over it.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Oh yeah, the Chinese are trying to get. I went up to Klingman's Dome though and saw Starlink go over, and it was like. Honestly, it was one of the most like craziest things I've ever seen in my life.
We saw it out here. It was pretty wild too. If we hadn't known it Starlink, it would have been like, "What in the hell is that?" But yeah, it was wild.
That's what I did. I didn't know what it was, but where you're up on the mountain at Klingman's Dome, it's like so much closer.
Oh yeah.
So it was just like massive, and it's just like these dots, but they're about this far apart, like and they're like it's like a chain link, but they're not actually linked together. I guess Starlink, but I figured out why they called it that once I saw it. I was like, yeah.
It's pretty wild, though. I mean, when I was standing out there, I don't know if any of y'all have ever read October Sky, the Home Rate Chicken book, or I think they made a movie of it too. But you kick back to that book. It was written about the first satellite, the Sputnik satellite, the Russian satellite, right?
So there a monkey up in it or something?
Well, I think the Sputnik was uninhabited, unmanned, but it was the first satellite. It was the first man-made craft to orbit the. At least that we know of, to orbit the globe. And, this got everybody thinking because there was like this ominous night. Everybody knew it was coming over and they all went out to look and they saw, sure enough, there it was, and they're like, okay, this means Russia just put a satellite right over top of us. That means they could drop a bomb on us from a satellite. And like, that was when they really got into the space race and the moon race. And a lot of people say, and I believe that they, at least for the first time they went there, they faked the moon landing. Yeah. And Russia, I saw a story the other day that Russia has used different AI, Google's in particular, and analyzed a lot of like all the data that they can get through it, and they came to the conclusion that the Americans faked the moon landing and that the Chinese moon landing was real.
Didn't Kubrick admit it, like on his death row?
I don't know. I feel like he was very cryptic about a lot of things like that. But he did have a set made that could have been used for that from 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Well, that line in the Red Hot Chili Peppers song, "Californication," space may be a final frontier, but it's made
in the Hollywood
Yeah.
basement.
Yeah, and I fully believe that at least the very first one, there's so much evidence that those photos are fake. And if you watch that documentary, we've talked about it on this show multiple times. What a funny thing happened on the way to the moon. You can see NASA accidentally released the raw files that they weren't supposed to release to a documentary filmmaker who filed a FOIA, and they saw that these supposed images that were of Earth in space, they were actually of a porthole.
Wow.
That was looking down on the Earth. So they think the thing was in orbit, but it was just in low Earth orbit. And they were making it look like the blackness around it was the blackness of space, but the blackness was actually just the inside of the spacecraft.
That's what you're saying,
They had turned off all the lights in it and were just showing the round window on a port, and it showed a portion of the Earth. So they were making it look like, that this was the real Earth.
That would be the smart thing to do, like make Russia and other countries dump all their money into the space program,
Yeah.
and then once they develop it, figure out how to do it, then we just gank their stuff.
And I think that's pretty much what they did. And
I also thought with the tensions of that time in doing that, they were like, hey, if we fuck this up, they're all going to be like, hey, you couldn't do it. So they faked, even if the people actually did go for the first time, they may have.
And that's what I thought too.
But then they showed a film version just in case things went sour.
Yeah,
That's
just in case they didn't. That's what I thought too, because they didn't want to have this be this amazing thing that we're televising and we're going to be the first to do it, and it's this big thing. I believe we can go to the moon. This whole Kennedy thing that he made it his.
Like back then, you could barely get TV in some places broadcast live, let alone from the damn moon.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, and then like 2 years later, Nixon supposedly talked to the astronauts on the moon on a Motorola telephone, on a cell phone. But anyway, while I feel like they didn't want to have the images of if something went wrong, of dead astronauts broadcast around the world and totally demoralize the American public.
And be like, oh look, America's not as awesome as they say they are.
But it makes you wonder about the Challenger thing. The fact that they turned that on in every classroom in America in 1986 and blew up a teacher in front of everybody. I mean, that's pretty wild, man.
I know, because they do launches all the time. Why that one?
I don't know.
The teacher was on it.
I don't know. There was a lot of indications that the problem was known about and could have been fixed, and for whatever reason it wasn't. But back to Project Bluebeam or Blue Book, we're going to say I'm going to give you that kind of the general rundown of it. It's basically the Air Force give all the info from Project Blue Book to the National Archives, and it's been declassified. And they say it's declassified, but I want to show you something pretty interesting here. The National Archives have received numerous inquiries concerning documents identified as MJ-12 and briefing document Operation Majestic 12. Now, if you've been in the UFO game for a long time, for any time at all, you've heard about Majestic 12, and it's supposedly this, group of 12 that was basically like. What was it? The bosses of Blue Book, basically. Like so many of these Blue Book things got arrested or investigated. They found it to be nothing. But I think when they found something, they kicked it up to MJ-12. If I'm not mistaken, that's the way it went. I could be mistaken. It's been a long time since I really looked at it. But everybody's heard that. But MJ-12. There was only one document that they were able to find from it, and it says subject, and it is from a memorandum for General Twining from Robert Cutler, Special Assistant to the President, subject NCS/MJ-12 Special Studies Project, dated July 14, 1954, and it's one page that refers to a briefing that took place in July 16th of 1954, but it does not identify MJ-12 or the purpose of the briefing. So we know that it existed. We've heard that it existed before, and like we have a national archives record of it, not anything that we can actually use, but just something that showed that it did. In fact, there was a program called that. And another thing with MJ-12 is these things supposedly. That information came from like retired Air Force people, and I don't remember all the details, but like I said, the Serge Manost, I don't remember him being connected to anybody like that. But from 1947 to 1969, a total of 12,618 sightings were reported to Project Blue Book. Of these, 701 remain unidentified. So these are just sightings that were reported. These are not ones that they actually, saw. But anyway, they did that to investigate these. But I think what was it called? They gave the name of them in the X-Files. Was it the Blue Berets?
No, the Dark Knight satellite.
The Blue Berets that went after the crash retrieval units. I think that's what it was.
Oh yeah,
The teams that actually came out and killed everybody and cleaned up took the UFO away. Pretty sure it's called the Blue Berets.
Teams. They come in and kill everything moving and burn everything.
Yep, and they pretty sure it was a Blue Beret. Maybe not. But they were in an episode of the X-Files too, and they explained, UFO, what it is, Blue Beret UFO retrieval team. But so those guys would come in and sweep everything up, kill all the witnesses or whatever. That's when there's an actual crash. So Blue Book was when they would try to talk to the witnesses and see, if somebody had seen one, but they didn't actually see it crash or anything like that. So Blue Book, they say it closed, and it says, according to the National Archives, it says, since Project Blue Book was closed, nothing has happened to indicate that the Air Force ought to resume investigating UFOs. Because of the considerable cost of the Air Force in the past and the tight funding the Air Force needs today, there is no likelihood the Air Force will become involved in UFO investigations again. So, what we've got here is the most powerful, allegedly, most powerful military in the history of the world that has at least 700 instances, but in 20 years, of unidentified aircraft in its airspace that it can't do anything. We've seen the Tic Tac, and then I know we're talking years after that, but the Tic Tac incident in 2001, was it, or 2003? Early 2000s, when that was recorded. Up until now, we've had numerous reports of pilots saying that we engage these things. We can't hit them with weapons. They can track us easy. We can't get away from them. We can't chase them. When we run into them, we're just basically powerless against them. So I just think it's funny that they said that nothing has happened to indicate that they ought to resume investigating them. So it's
just odd because they just said that there was aliens, remember? And then all this UFO stuff, and then all of a sudden they're like, well, we're not going to look into it anymore.
Well, this is an old.
Sounds to me like they've already made contact or something, because if they're going to say they're not pursuing it anymore, then something's happened.
That's what I feel like too, because this is an old,
some sort of answer.
Mm-hmm.
This is an old document. They had their answer, I think, back then. While they were running Blue Book, like if they shut Blue Book down, then they must have had whatever they needed. Because to run it for 20 years and investigate that 12,000 sightings, and they have 701 that remain unidentified. That's actually a lot if you think about it. For the United States government to see a craft of some sort and not be able to identify. Well, again, this is a report of them. So,
and considering giving the government the opportunity to siphon more money into something, and they gave up on it. So you're like,
that's it. And people would be willing to pay that, because even like ANCAPs are like, yeah, I'll pay to find out if we have UFOs or whatever. Or if we have, but anyway, there's they say that they're not doing it anymore at the time of this publication of this at the National Archives. So I don't know when that was exactly, but they stopped doing it in 69. And then we go down to a little bit further to the Majestic 12, or the MJ-12 reference report, and they talk about why this particular document poses problems, and it's filed as top secret. And the document itself doesn't bear a number to indicate that it's top secret, but there's no other documents in the folder with it regarding that. So I think they maybe filed it accidentally in somewhere where where it was never supposed to be. These MJ-12 papers, if there were such things, were probably never supposed to be. I mean,
a good example of them sweeping it up, like you're saying, is like on 9/11, like that. There was a gas station across the street from the Pentagon, and that footage was never, still to this day, right. I've never seen that footage. Yeah, that was the one that were saying, a lot of people were saying it was a drone that hit it.
Well, I mean, the Pentagon's the most got to be the most recorded and secure building in the
Oh,
world,
yeah,
and
but
they
you
only had that
never-
one bad footage of the gate, like that was all they had, and it was obviously not an airliner, but they still released it anyway. I don't get it. But all right, let's get off of Blue Book for a minute, because I think we all know what it is, and we got the idea there. You know, they say they're not collecting them anymore. They're in that.
UFO isn't worth as much as I thought.
Well, check the private party value. You know, the trade-ins where they screw you. You know, especially these intergalactic ship dealers.
Yeah.
So the Air Force, there's no reason for the Air Force, right? Well, guess what? Somebody else has been picking up the pieces there. Our good old friends at the CIA have been conducting retrieval missions on at least 9 crash sites around the world. This is since 2003. This is from Daily Mail, and this just came out the other day. This is their exclusive from a few days ago. Daily Mail says the Office of Global Access, a wing of the CIA, has played a central role in collecting alien spacecraft since 2003. At least 9 non-human craft have been recovered by the U.S. government, some wrecked from a crash, and 2 completely intact. And this says a secretive CIA office has been coordinating the retrieval of crashed UFOs around the world for decades. Multiple sources told the Daily Mail. Now, this is the Daily Mail. They're like,
There's gonna be a warehouse of these things, man. I'll probably like only people that can see it's like Jay Leno or something.
I don't know, man.
It's like a Jay Leno's car collection, but it's like the UFOs. Of all these UFOs they've collected, you know, there's like a shrine, just like a big juicy warehouse full of just weird looking. Half of them are probably Chinese spy, you know, like some kind of other government's technology that they. That's another reason why they get on top of these crash sites, because
Yeah.
they want to see if it's new technology that they don't have.
Yeah, and then they distinguish between that too. On stock, I swear, if you don't quit, lay down, lay down, lay down, lay down, lay down, lay down. God, he's too fat. He's too fat, people. Again, there's no dog, but they've been searching
Threats to the devil.
They've been picking these things up since 2003, and now the Daily Mail, they don't name their sources in here. They do say that it's but they say they have 3 different sources who've given this information, and you know, Daily Mail's not like a tabloid exactly. I mean, it's like a it does have like tabloid and celebrity stories and stuff, but it actually has a lot of good news stuff in it too. They don't tend to like editorialize a whole lot on the news stuff. They I don't know. They do, but not politically editorialized, I guess you'd say. But we're talking about 3 different sources on the condition of anonymity. I'm assuming Daily Mail has, you know, vetted them and believe what they're saying. But there's or believe what they have the connections that they have. But there's the badge of the Office of Global Access from the CIA, and it's a wing of the CIA arm of science and technology. And
There's a lot of weird to those 3-letter guys that I'd never heard of until recently, like the NRO and the.
National Reconnaissance
Yeah,
Organization.
there's a bunch of like crazy ones I've never heard of.
Well, one of the whistleblowers that we talked about earlier, the Grush guy, he came out of NRO, and when he first came out on the show, I was saying, I was kind of skeptical of him at first, because I was saying like, well, the timing is really good, and like I was shared the meme with you guys where it shows, you know, I believed there were aliens until the government told me there were aliens, you know, but I think this guy, okay, basically, I don't think most of Congress or anybody like that knows anything about this. They don't get read in unless they're on the need to know, and for the most part, these agencies get by with saying, well, Congress doesn't need to know, and a lot of times I don't think the presidents even know. They say, well,
they don't.
You know, it's behind the scenes.
What it is, yeah.
If you watch the movie the Men in Black series, I know it's you know, there's actually a lot of truth in that movie to the way that like government agencies operate. Like, you think that, you know, executives are in charge of it, but really there are people who stay there. Your president's gone in 8 years, but like Agent K, he's been there for 40 fucking years. He knows all the aliens, you know.
Yeah.
The president doesn't even know the thing exists. And then, you know, to go to another Will Smith movie, Independence Day, you know, when they have the crashed, crash land in Roswell, the president doesn't believe it, and they're like, well, it's not entirely accurate, you know, and turns out there is a the Area 51 facility, and they take the president down there, and he's never. And when he asked why wasn't he briefed in on it, they're like, well, you never needed to know, and
Need to know about
so all these programs are they're operating. I mean, they've been authorized by Congress and the president, but they don't really have any oversight over it. So one of the things that this David Grush, the NRO guy that became a whistleblower, what he did was basically Congress. And again, I'm paraphrasing his story, so if I get something wrong, I'm sorry. But you can go watch. He was on Joe Rogan for 3 hours. So if you go, I listened to the whole thing, and I've seen other interviews with him too. So if I mix things up, I'm sorry, but you can go check it out yourself. But basically, what he said was there was a mandate in Congress. Congress was trying to determine. They had passed a bill or passed a law to where they're going to see how much money was being used on special access programs, and if they were collecting any UFOs, and if taxpayer money was being used for that, and if black budget money was being used for that, and all this stuff. So he's investigating this stuff, and he comes across lots of information that not only have they been using, these programs existed, but they've actually retrieved. He said biologics. We've retrieved biologics, but on Joe Rogan he actually expands a little bit, and Rogan asks him, "You talking alien pilots?" And he's like, "Yeah." They didn't ask him that in Congress, but so this guy, one of the reasons I think he has a little more credibility is because he was put in this position by an act of Congress. He was given clearance to all these places, and these different departments did not want to give him access to the information, or at least according to his story. I mean, he could just be a really good actor, got me fooled, but he seems to be legit. But they were fighting him on this information and trying not to give him all this stuff. He actually got threatened. He got removed from duty.
He's lucky they clip him, dude.
Well, they tried to throw him in like a shrink in a psychiatric hospital.
Yeah, that's the first thing. Yeah.
They did all kinds of stuff. They came at him a lot of different ways and tried to stop him from doing what he was doing. So that's one indication to me that he was legit. Another thing is, like, he sounded really like, I talked about how he sounded, why won't you just come right out and say it? Oh, well, these are, biologics, we've retrieved biologics, and he said everything in a funny way. But if you listen to him on Rogan, he gets into like, look, I'm still under, security orders. Like, I had to get everything that I said cleared through, the Pentagon, whoever it is that he has to go through. He's got to get everything he says cleared, and he's got to go around to whoever jurisdiction in the government is, and the bureaucratic nightmare the federal government is. He's got to find out who he's got to ask permission to, and get the permission from the right person to be able to tell about certain things. So he's being very careful not to get himself put in prison, not only that, not to tip off our adversaries, give them any kind of idea of like,
and not to get suicided.
Yeah, that too. And one of the examples he gave was like, they asked him how many crashes we've retrieved, and he's like, I can't give you an exact number. He's like, because just for example, Russia might say, oh, well, we thought there were only 12 in that given time. We've missed number 13 and 14. So they're going to start coming after that. So he's saying, well, we've got not only national security objectives, I've also got my not get murdered objectives, not get put in jail forever objectives. But anyway, he says that they have recovered these things. So the Daily Mail goes on to these are different sources according to them, and this is the bill we're talking about. And actually, I can't believe it was Chuck Schumer who sponsored this, and Harry Reid was always really good on this too. Gross. And I think these guys are awful politicians, but I think that you can kind of I think there's some honesty in this, because they're like, look, we're the fucking Congress and we don't know anything about this. We demand to find answers about this. So I mean, even if it is coming through Chuck Schumer and Harry Reid and guys that you don't like politically or don't trust, I can trust that Chuck Schumer wants to have more power, and that he will do everything he can in his position as the majority leader in the Senate to do that. And if there's special access programs going on that he doesn't know about, I guarantee he wants to know about them. If not for no other reason, because he's the majority of the Senate, majority leader of the Senate. They said there's at least 9 vehicles and different circumstances for different ones. It has to do with the physical condition they're in. If it crashes, there's a lot of damage done. Others, 2 of them are completely intact. And then they've got another source that says, or this is the same source, said the CIA has a system in place that can discern UFOs while they're still cloaked. And if the non-human craft land, crash, or are brought down to Earth, special military units are sent down to try to salvage the wreckage. Special Project Blue Berets, or the Blue Beret Boys, whatever you want to call them, the cleanup crew. So he talks about how the OGA basically allows the U.S. military to secretly access areas around the world they'd usually be denied, and they're basically a facilitator to get people in and out of foreign countries, and they're really clever at doing that. And one of the things that they do is, well, that's in the next article, so we'll keep going a little bit further. So the OGA now, that's why the Blue Book is not necessary. CIA is doing it under the OGA now. They were probably doing it under a different, from 69 to 2003, they were probably doing it under a different program. But that got handed off there. And if you want to read this article, it's from the other day in the Daily Mail. It's from the 8th, I think. Oh no, the 28th of November. So it's from like 2 weeks ago. But then we've got another one here. I thought this one was pretty interesting. So we know the CIA is out there collecting these things. We know that the NRO is out there, or some sort of special. We don't know exactly that. We know the NRO. The NRO's uncovered. The NRO investigators uncovered other ones.
I got this trench coat actually recently at a thrift store, and it's got like a patch on the inside of it, and it's from a federal agency. It's like their old coat, which where I got the thrift store I got it was kind of near Knoxville. So I was like, man, I don't know what's got on this thing. It's hard telling around here with Oak Ridge being close by, but it's really cool. I think I want to say it was some kind of logistics agency of some kind, but it was cool, man. It looked like something that Scully or Mulder would have worn.
Yeah,
it was really cool.
Geiger counter over it.
Yeah, I need to. I'll send you a picture of it. It's that tag on the inside of it. It's definitely from the 60s. It's vintage. Awesome, honestly, I thought about reaching out to that and see if they want to put it in some kind of museum or something, because you know how it is old people die, and there's probably someone that worked there, and when he died, kids clean his stuff out.
Yeah.
And then it winds up at the thrift store, and then somebody like me comes along. I'm like, yes, this is awesome.
Yeah.
But regardless, I wanted to get the history behind that. And I did look it up, but I didn't get too detailed about it. But I looked it up, and it's basically they just did inventory of stuff, but they're still a federal agency, and it's got the big badge on it and stuff. And I was like, dude, this is crazy. I didn't even notice the patch, until I got it home. And started and got to looking at it. I was like, oh man, what is this? Yeah, like I said, I want to run a Geiger counter over it and make sure it wasn't like.
Sure, it ain't hot.
Yeah.
Well, the next story I wanted to get to, this was from back in June, and somehow we missed this one, but this is from the Daily Mail also. The Pentagon whistleblower, David Grush, who we were just talking about, he says the Vatican is aware of the existence of non-human intelligence and helped the U.S. retrieve a downed UFO from Mussolini at the end of World War II. Well, apparently, a UFO crashed in northern Italy in 1933. And Mussolini captured it. Now, there's all kinds of stories about Hitler traveling around the world looking for crashed UFOs and, trying to copy the technology and stuff. But evidently, there's evidence. This guy Grush, however the hell you say his name, he came across it in his investigation here, that we actually retrieved a flying saucer type craft from the Vatican. The Pope Pius II, I believe it was. He identified that to the U.S. government that Mussolini had captured this thing, and that they had actually found pilots in it, and they turned it over to the U.S. at the end of the war. But the Pentagon, let's see, oops, here we go. They also say that the Vatican is aware of the existence of non-human intelligences. So this is also Daily Mail, and it was Pope Pius XII, not the second, sorry. And he gave the tip to the U.S. government after the oh shoot, sorry guys, gotta add, after the end of World War II, and we're going to look at.
Do you know Hitler actually had an entire branch of the military that was dedicated to that?
Oh yeah,
nothing but supernatural stuff. And they did all kinds of dark magic, you name it, man. They did a lot of it's supernatural.
The SS Paranormal.
Yeah, pretty much.
Let's see. Let's look at this here.
You know, who knows the kind of technology that they actually got back then?
It's from News Nation. Thanks, News Nation.
From the very beginning.
Well, you know, that's around the time the microwave oven came out, too.
Cover up.
Yeah.
Just about 90 years. 1933 was the first recovery in Europe, in Magenta, Italy. They recovered a partially intact vehicle. It's long been known that the regime of dictator Benito Mussolini documented numerous UAP during this time. This internal memo from the Italian secret services includes crude drawings of the UAPs. It's true. It's real. Yeah, that actually happened. Italian government moved it to a secure air base in Italy for the rest of kind of the fascist regime until 1944, 1945. And, you know, the Pope Pius XII back-channeled that. So the Vatican was involved. Yeah, and told the Americans what the Italians had, and we ended up scooping it. So, to be very clear about this, you're saying that the Catholic Church, the Vatican, they know about the existence of non-human intelligence on this planet? Certainly. Rush says shortly after the dawn of the atomic age, another major crash recovery took place. You've probably heard of it.
Probably so. You probably have.
PPG has made a plan
Whoops.
that guides everything we do. I pledge to believe in a better future.
Nobody cares. I'm sure it's ESG stuff there from PPG. But yeah, so isn't that wild? How did we not hear about that? Like,
Yeah,
I mean, we follow the news pretty close around here, and somehow we missed that one. So yeah, the claim is that the Vatican knew about it, and that kind of makes me think of. You ever see the movie Prince of Darkness, the John Carpenter film?
it's been a long time.
So in the film, the premise is, and it's a spoiler, so if you haven't seen Prince of Darkness and you really care to be surprised, tune out for about a minute or so. But I don't think it's going to ruin it for you. But the idea is in this movie, the in the church they've had a container that has some kind of green liquid swirling gas in it, and it's actually the spirit of evil itself, of Satan and the Prince of Darkness, and it's confined within this. And when you actually go back, you find that Jesus was actually an alien who was sent to tell them how to stop this evil from getting out, but the humanity didn't have the ability to understand. They didn't have the technology or the ability to understand his message, so he basically encoded it in the Bible for us to understand how to stop this evil entity whenever it starts breaking out. And that kind of reminded me of the same thing, because it was like Jesus was God. Jesus, it did a sci-fi Jesus, basically. Like, there's still a good and evil and fighting.
I mean, Jesus was pretty sci-fi, man. I mean, he walked on water, and
yeah.
I mean, he defied,
More sci-fi than Mormon space Jesus.
It's pretty funny. I saw this meme the other day, or it wasn't even a meme. It was. I mean, it is a meme now. But what it was if you're on X or Twitter, and if you're not, you should definitely go on there and follow us and follow the Armageddon Hour podcast. But go on there. It's where free speech is alive in America today, at least for now. So it's working pretty good for us. Go over there and check it out. But anyway, if you're on there, I saw it was a really strict religious Christian person who was saying that somebody was using the argument that everything comes from God, and that alcohol what came from God, and he goes through. There's never any instance of God making alcohol, or never mentioned in the Bible, and it just said, community note, fact check, Jesus turned water into wine.
like who's gonna tell him?
Yeah, but he definitely made a meme there accidentally. So yeah, the Pentagon's catching crashed UFOs for a long time, back to 33. We've all heard about Roswell, but how many of us have heard about the 1933 crash in Magenta, Italy?
I actually haven't, man. And like I said, I've researched the crap out of this stuff my whole life.
Yep. And that one slipped by me too. But I think, again, it had to do with the way that thing was presented. We all, I don't know, I feel for the meme of, if
That's where James
when the government tells me that there are aliens, I start to think there's not really aliens. But anyway,
yeah, that's exactly the way I feel about it.
and I've been looking at it my whole life too. Like I think I've mentioned on this before. When I was a kid, like one of my earliest memories is my parents had a old camping trailer out on their house, like a big trailer, and like the whole front room of it was full of UFO magazines. Like from the time I was like 4 years old, I was out there reading these UFO magazines and Weekly World News and all the Sun and all these different tabloid stuff.
Yeah.
Anything that was talking about UFOs, my dad was collecting.
My grandmother
stuff.
had them too, the Sun magazines and that, like the
Bat Boy.
Inquirer. Yeah. Like Elvis, these crazy Elvis sightings.
Yeah, that was always the one that cracked me up because, like, how many people dress up as Elvis? Like, how many Elvis impersonators are there? And, like, people are, I saw Elvis. Like, I'm sure Elvis, if he's running around, he's not wearing his jumpsuit and, like, hey, mama,
Those were the peak in, like, the 90s. And I remember the Clintons were in a lot of them. Almost everyone had Bill or Hillary or both of them in it.
Yeah.
Like some crazy,
Hillary's a demon, or
Yeah.
Hillary's a satanic priestess, and,
Like,
They probably made those things just to discredit,
I don't know. I think some of them, I think some of them were just for fun, and then others you think it probably was like a CIA public. They probably had a company that they owned that published it, and just to put things like Bat Boy out there, and obviously. Not that they're.
Bat Boy's awesome though. That's like just the whole premise behind.
Oh, I love
like,
Bat Boy, but I think a lot of that stuff was definitely. But then you saw them on. Remember the 9/11? They showed all the demon faces in the smoke. They were the first ones showing that stuff. But at any rate, I wanted to get around this before I quit too, because Dustin, when I was reading about the OGA, and you had mentioned where they were using where the private companies had this technology that they could use to create holograms and stuff for a Project Bluebeam. Well, the Pentagon actually uses private companies to get in and transfer these UFOs out, so they're not using government companies. They don't have the oversight. So you give it over to Lockheed Martin or whoever, Raytheon, Boeing, whoever it is that you give it to, or I don't know if that's those are the ones, but whatever company, a private company, probably funded by NQTEL and paid for roundabout way by the taxpayers of the United States, probably funded the corporation, and the corporation got to act on its own with our backing instead of in our name as the government. So anyway, that was one of the things that they're doing to hide all this stuff and keep us from finding out about it. But that's a whole lot of other stuff. That's a whole other rabbit hole y'all can check out if you're interested in it. I don't know if our chat's not working on it or what, man, but you guys are quiet.
Pop up either.
Y'all need to be getting in here gassing this geese. It makes the show much better. But at any rate, it's 11 o'clock tonight, and we're going to go ahead and end it up. But I do want to show you one more story here tonight, and I put this in the description. So if y'all want to read the whole article, I definitely recommend you do that, because this is a whoops, that's not the right one. This is a old school blog style post. I'm going to tell you about Southeast Airlines Flight 308. Now we're just going to tell you about it, and I'm going to share the description, or I'm going to put in the description of the video the blog style post where y'all can read it, and it chronicles some folks going up and looking for this crash site years after the facts, and it's like from the guy's a Christian philosopher, and it's a really good read, but it's probably going to take you 20 minutes to read it.
I saw something about this recently myself, but I didn't have enough time to.
Well, this is Southeast Airlines Flight 308, and it was coming from Knoxville to Bristol on January 8, 1959, and it was flown. It was on a DC-3A, and this is a DC-3, so this is the kind of airplane it was that came in, and
It had a British flag on that one.
yeah, we've had at least 3 plane crashes that I know of on Holston Mountain. Yeah, it is.
No, I'm wrong. I thought it was a tail fan. I thought it was like Australian or something.
It's Australia. British in the corner.
That's a gangster plane. If I ever had a plane,
Pleiades.
want to get new modernized motors on that thing, but that would be cool.
Yeah, it's one of those that you have like a babe on the side of it, like a pinup model on it.
Yeah, like a chick riding a bomb or something.
We're on the same
Need
wavelength.
to get it and get Miss Piggy on.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
It left McGee-Tyson Airport about 27 minutes late on the second leg of a flight with 27 passengers and 3 crew. And it was coming into runway 27 at Tri-Cities Airport, and they had about a 3-mile visibility in light snow and fog. And they've had problems with the automatic direction finder, and they were unable to find the marker that they were using to tell where they were going to turn. So they passed to the east of the marker and descended and hit the wooden slope on the northwest side of Holston Mountain. It killed all 10 people on board. And they reckon that it was due to the failure of the pilot to identify the gray intersection properly and to continue using an instrument landing system approach contrary to company and regulatory procedures, he said. So basically the pilot fucked up and couldn't see anything and messed up trying to land it with not knowing where he was at. But anyway, we don't have much more information on it from this other than that it happened and crashed into Holston Mountain. On the other side of it from us. Now, there was another crash we talked about on this show, an F4 Phantom jet that crashed right on the top. And me and B went by that this weekend. If you watched our truck video, we went by it, and let's see if I have that real quick. It's a real short one.
Yeah, I know. I think there's, if I'm not mistaken,
Is that the one I had the killer dad joke about?
I don't remember.
Was that the one that the Jehovah's Witness crashed?
Oh, no, I don't think so. No,
I think that was like a Cessna, or it was a smaller plane.
Yeah, that was a good one, though.
But
I'm pretty sure there's like several abandoned airplanes like just out in the woods that have crashed in the mountains around here. I think there's one up near Lost Cove.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, there's somewhere out that way.
they took the one that was off the Blue Ridge Parkway over right in North Carolina. They took it.
That was what I was thinking about.
They took it out because they were like, "Oh, too many people are going to it. It's messing with the nature around." And I was like, "Man,
it was
nothing. It was like perfect." I was wanting to go. I had like ideas for a couple photo shoots to do out there.
Oh yeah, I would have totally went up there. Dude, they've got a plane up there in Sevierville where I live. It's like in between Sevierville and Gallenberg. I can't remember the name of the road. But it's like right near the gas station. But they have a plane just sitting on the side of the road in an empty lot, like in the middle of Sevierville. Like the wings have been dismantled off of it, but I guess someone bought it like that, or maybe they pulled it out of the woods and they just have it there. Or...
We saw that too. I'm not sure what that is. If you look,
I see that shining up there.
That's what we're talking about. We couldn't figure out what it was, but I thought it was a plane flying straight towards us. But this ridge right here is the top of Iron Mountain. So we're up on Holston. We're looking over Iron. I'm not sure which mountain this is. It's over in Virginia. Damascus is right over in this area right here. So this is down towards North Carolina. I think North Carolina would be in this area over here. I'm not sure what that is, but it was bright and shiny, and we've seen that when we were driving by the F4 Phantom site. That's what I'm looking for now. Sorry, I got a bunch of videos here of it. B's pretty good documenter. Here we go. I believe this is it. I thought I could zoom in on it. I guess I can on this playback mode, but that's all that's really left.
Where's this at geographically?
That is on Holston Mountain. If you go up Stony Creek and you go up past the Blue Hole, drive all the way to the top of the mountain.
Shady Valley?
Yep. Well, no, not quite to Shady Valley. But this is the mountain that runs into Shady Valley.
But that's the side with that one plane you were showing us. That's where it crashed at.
Yeah, no, not the one I just showed you. This is the one we've talked about on the show before, the F4 Phantom experimental jet. Well, that was the F4 Phantom site, but it was pretty cool. That one was an experimental jet that crashed there in '76. But definitely go out and if you're interested at all in it, go in the description of this video and read. Like I said, it'll probably take you 15 minutes to read it, but I think you'll be glad you did. It's an interesting insight into I don't know, just being a person, I guess, and what it all means. So it's on the Trail 57 blog. The search for Flight 308, and it is what's the guy's name here? Mike Jones is the photographer for it, and he gets some good get some good pictures here. And there's you found like the pilot's wings there, yeah. And here's like all that's left of the marker for the memorial, and they had to hike through, and there's where Tri-Cities Airport's where they were trying to land, and back here is where they actually crashed. But Mike and Larry here go down the trail, and you can see it's pretty rough to get back to, and it talks about the plane, and this is the actual accident aircraft right here. So they did even better than Wikipedia on this and got the actual photos of the aircraft. They got the accident reports and the flight path comparisons. So it's really neat if you want to go back and look at this. I checked it out earlier, but there's no way for me to put the whole thing on the show. But as you can see, they go really in detail. And Trail 57, kudos to you guys. You did a great job putting this together. It's a very informative and very insightful piece too. And here's this guy found a piece of the landing gear back in 2019, so they're still finding pieces of it. The Flight 308.
Yeah, so those pop rivets on whatever that was.
Yep. And if you go through and check this out, I think you'll learn a lot and find it very interesting. So definitely UFOs aren't the only thing in the sky worth checking out, and we hope y'all will do that. And we also hope that you will go and subscribe to us on Twitter. Go and subscribe to us on Rumble. Like the video, share the video, subscribe to Aaron Armageddon, the Armageddon Hour podcast. Yeah, he's on Twitter now too. Yeah. So jump on there. Follow him on there, follow us on there, talk to us on Twitter. We like to talk to you. I post about shit. I'll be honest, it's mostly like news and political stuff more than conspiracy stuff that I do on Twitter just because I like it. But jump in there, jump in the conversation. If you think I'm full of shit, that's a good place to tell me. If you don't want to, come on the show with your YouTube handle, say it. But anyway, we'd love to hear from you in any of those channels, and we'd love to hear from you at the Iron Mountain Hour at gmail.com if you'd like to send us anything you want to hear about on the show, any stories you think we should cover, or any thoughts that you might have on the stories we have already covered. So with that said, anybody else have anything to add tonight before we get out of here?
Everybody have a good week, and God bless y'all.
That's right. God bless.
Stay safe.
Gas the geese.
Gas the geese.
All right, y'all. We'll see you Thursday. Aaron and I will be back, and we're going to do a Skype chat on some news and current events, and we will see you then. And it is getting into political season, so I think me and Aaron are probably going to move towards doing more of that coverage on the Thursdays. Tim really doesn't like to do that stuff, so we'll kind of keep that to Thursdays, and we'll kind of keep the conspiracies, and it's not all going to be fun. Some of it will be, but the fun stuff and conspiracies will be on the Sunday show.
It's getting ready to get juicy, for sure.
Yeah, and to be the kind of show we are, like I said, even though we're not a political show, we're definitely going to have to do political coverage on with everything that's going to be going on. There's just so much. I'm like a.
Will it be a power outage? Will it be? It's hard telling what it'll be.
Yep. But all remains to be seen, and we will be here with you, Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. And that does not mean the creek, the water rising in the creek bed. It means Lord willing and the Creek Indians don't rebel and kill us all in our sleep. Is pretty much what they meant by that. But anyway, we'll see you next week. Have a good one, or Thursday. Bye.